Therefore, yes, therefore, when we do this, we have to pay attention to do it correctly. So what this is going to be. So when we are working in the writing itself, I don't have a lot of write that. When we are working in the writing and how we are going to plan this writing, so we are looking for something, right? We are looking to take control because this is what we look for. When we are doing something that we don't manage because we are against time, when time is something that is not in our favor and it's against us, so we need to work and we need to try to gain control. How do we gain control? What is control in a test? Or what is control in an exam? Control in a test is actually time. Being able to manage and to cope with time. Let's say that in writing test 2 we're going to have 40 minutes. This is basically the time that we are going to have in writing test 2. Remember?
Yes,
Good.
yes, of course.
Yes. So what we have to do is, the first thing we need to do is understand the question. To understand the question, you need to see what the question is about, and you need to see, usually the questions are divided always like in two things, right? One sentence explaining something, and the resulting sentence giving the doubt about this, or the resulting sentence giving another option about the first option. Therefore, we always have to look into the question not as only one global thing, because sometimes questions, and regularly questions, are divided into two different aspects. One aspect might depend from the first one, or one aspect could be just one single issue, and the other aspect will be another single issue. So probably those things are going to be a little different. I got all my alcohol there. So that's important to consider and figure in this case. So we're going to take that to understand the question is 1 minute. 1 minute to understand the question. Number 2, then we need to involve ourselves in the question. We need to involve ourselves in the question. We are very accustomed to look at questions from the outside. We are very accustomed to look at the questions from what we really believe only, and we forget that there are other forms of seeing questions, of checking questions, and things like that. For example, I don't know if you know this concept of the micro and macro. All right. What is the micro and macro? When we learn more about the micro and the macro, then we have a better side of view of things. And then we can look into questions from a different kind of perspective. You need to try to involve yourself in the question. Try to close your eyes for 30 seconds and think about the situation that this question is giving us. When we think about the situation around ourselves, right, I can understand better what is happening. And when I am involved in the question, then I can have a better judgment on how I'm going to actually abord the question. So every single question has to be aborded as like in a macro form, right? What is in the macro? The government, the countries in general, right? The economies in general, the enterprises, the large organizations. And I also have to look into what is the micro. What is the micro? The person, right? The school, university, actually education. Education in general is part of the micro society, the micro world. And then communities in general. This can be society in general, right? Society. When we conceptualize things into society. So in order to understand the question very well and to take a stand, in front of the question is to understand that better. What kind of things this question involves. That's very important to consider. Number two, we need to plan it. Oh, okay, so this is 1 minute. Then involve ourselves in the question is 2 minutes. We need to start thinking quickly, all right? So when we plan, we don't take more than 5 minutes. Remember that when we plan, we need the global reason, the sentences of support, so we need our thesis. Then we need the sentences of support. The sentence, let's say sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, the sentences of support. And if we need an opposite argument, we have to come up with an opposite argument. But that is only agree or disagree questions, I mean type 1 questions. So the thesis that I'm going to defend and the sentences of support, the global reasons or the reasons I'm going to use. I need to plan that in 5 minutes. We need to plan the arguments first. And then the introduction. Then we're going to do the introduction quickly. Remember that the introduction is in 3 different steps, right? I open the topic, I do the opening sentence, then I paraphrase the main sentence, and then I present my thesis, I present my global reason. These are the 3 steps that we are going to write always in the question. Now remember that type 1 is only 1 global reason, right? Agree or disagree questions. Now type 2, advantages and disadvantages, is 2 global reasons. And type 3, simple questions, is 2 global reasons. Don't forget that. That is important to keep in mind all the time. So that's something that we have to do, the introduction. How much we're going to take in the introduction? We take 5 minutes. Now, if we look into this, we have already approximately 13 minutes. From the moment you read the question to the moment you are finishing the introduction, you are finishing with the introduction, no more than 13 minutes. No more than 13 minutes should have passed. This will be a good indicator. We have 40 minutes. Now the rest of the time, from 15 minutes to 40 minutes, is actually 25 minutes. In those 25 minutes, we have enough time to do the 2 developing paragraphs. And now we are going to do like in 10 minutes, right? We are going to do the development paragraph number 1. Then in another 10 minutes, we are going to do developing paragraph number 2. And finally, in the last 5 minutes, we are going to do the conclusion. Okay? This has to be the mindset. This is the way you should plan your work. You should plan the writing. And this is about only one thing. And this is why our preparations are very important, because in our preparations we teach you to take control.
Yes.
This is what we are looking for. We're looking for control. Basically, we are against time. We're doing something that we don't fully dominate, right? The topic is not maybe our expertise, right? We are doing this in test mode. The consequences of our actions will have a score, so they are going to evaluate us. That is why it is extremely important that all the tools that we use are to take control. This is the key, to use tools to have more control. Did you understand that?
Yes. And what I see